The district line bends around the neighborhood. The cartographer knew exactly where it should. 5% shift in the demographic split. The congressional map redrawn to fit. Not a natural boundary, a political blade. The community cuts is how the district's made. Every 10 years the ruler comes back out, redrawn to eliminate any doubt. The outcome was set with the drawing tool, long before the voter arrived at the poll. They drew the walls. They drew the walls. They drew the walls. The vote was geography, not democracy. Candidate knocks on 1,000 doors. 15% in the polls, still gets no floors. Threshold set at 5, no seat for you. Deposit required, a financial coup. The system builds a moat around the castle gate. Every structural rule serves the incumbent state. Reform requires a majority to pass. The majority benefits from keeping the class. The rules were written by the ones the rules protect. The ones the rules protect are not the ones you elect. They drew the walls. They drew the walls. They drew the walls. The vote was geography, not democracy. Redistribution killed before it began. Land value reform scrubbed from the stage. Any real structural shift locked in a cage. The over 10 window has guards on both sides. The third rail exists, but it never electrifies. The debate has two poles, both on the third voice never shown. No ballot line, no debate podium. designed out. The spoiler narrative comes out like a gun to make sure the third voice is over before it's begun. You waste your vote, the propaganda spins. The only wasted vote is one, the system wins. Rank choice, proportional, transferable weight. Every reform the two-party system won't debate. The architecture of choice is itself the cage. The erasure is designed into the stage. Designed out. Paranoia, I call it pattern. Documented instant systematic shattering. Machines miscounted in the 2000 count. Paper trail missing, the audit can't surmount. Voter roll purged in the night before the race. Provisional rejected without a stated case. This isn't conjecture wrapped in tin foil. This is the public record, historical soil. Distrust the machine. Distrust the machine. Distrust the machine. Evidence found. Rational, not conspiracy. Documented. The skipping gets the label conspiracy assigned. Meanwhile, the evidence sits unsigned and blind. Healthy democratic demand. Show the count. Transparent process. Open audit full amount. Every challenge system that holds up to light. Strength is the institution. That's the right. But every block of audit, every seal machine confirms the rational rate of what it means. Distrust the machine. Distrust the machine. Distrust the machine. Evidence found. Rational, not conspiracy. Documented. the station? Who counts the provisional? Who calls it a fair nation? Purge the voter roll, philatalistic spans, draw the precinct boundary with deliberate hands. The universal right is printed in the law. The application is selective, technical, raw. Hours long, miles far, day of work missed. The barrier is never written, it's just a list. A small operational decisions made by people who know exactly whose vote gets delayed. It's a paper ride with concrete walls. The system enforces through procedural calls. Who moves the deadline? Who closes the station? Who counts the provisional? Who calls it a fair nation? The right exists on paper. The paper exists in theory. The theory depends on access. The access is engineered. Who moves the deadline? Who closes the station? Who counts the provisional? Who calls it a fair nation? Four years ago, the same voice. The same words. The same stage. Whoa! The speech begins and the crowd ignites. The teleprompter runs on recycled lights. Affordable housing, third cycle now. Healthcare access, no one explains how. The promised land's like a fresh cut blade. 4 years later, the same blade, same trade. The calendar rolls, the memory fades. The same campaign with the beta cascades. They bank on the forgetting. They bank on the gap between what was promised and what's on the map. Different year, same crowd rising, same controlled fear. The promise was always the hook, not the cure. The promise was always the hook, not the cure. The timeline tracks the same impunity. Promise delivered, count it, 0. We ace through promise, package as hero. Housing stays locked, healthcare stays paywall. The promise machine is beautifully installed. New branding, new logo, new face in the light. Same cycle resetting on election night. They count on the cycle. 4 years reset. The promise outlives the proof of unmet. Same promise, different year. Same crowd rising, same controlled fear. The promise was always the hook, not the cure. The promise was always the hook, not the cure. Same name, different suit, identical claim. One master, two masks. One master, two masks. You're choosing the face, not the hands that last. The debate is the stage, the polls are reset. The winner already signed off the debt. Left flank, right flank, both flank you. The echo chamber has a donor too. Speeches written in the boardroom script. Conviction rented, conveniently flipped. The people get the argument, the noise. The board gets the budget, the contracts, the choice. Follow the money through every door. The corridor connects what the curtain hit before. One master, two masks. One master, two masks. You're choosing the face, not the hands that last. One master, both sides read democratic door that closes again when the crisis is start. Crisis arrives, democracy pauses. Crisis extends, democracy clauses. The emergency becomes the default mode. The exception was always the structural code. Power centralized, elections delayed, economic collapse, opposition stayed, security threat, press freedoms contained, each crisis a ratchet that never regained. The overtime window shifts in the emergency light. What was inconceivable becomes overnight, right? This historical pattern across every meridian, crisis as instrument, not just guardian. The mechanism isn't unique, it's been documented before. Every major restriction arrived through the crisis door. Crisis arrives, democracy pauses. Crisis extends, democracy clauses. The emergency becomes the default mode. The exception was always the structural code. your face. The fringe stays fringe, regardless of the case. Coverage is currency, currency is reach. Reaches the election before they teach. The math on screen to predict the poll result. The newsroom decision becomes the adult. They don't need to endorse, they just run the clock. 47 segments versus 2 on the block. The voter never heard the platform ignored. Never saw the stage where the third was floored. Visibility determines viability. Viability determines electability. Electability determines coverage weight. The loop is closed before you reach the gate. The coverage shapes the race. The race shapes the mind. The mind shapes the ballot. The ballot closes the blind. The winner in the broadcast schedule. The result was filed in the editorial meeting. The ballot already trimmed. Every dangerous option systematically dimmed. You pick from the menu, not from the field. The crop was selected before the vote revealed. Primary locks, convention sealed. The gatekeepers met before the curtain peeled. You think you chose what remained. After every real option was quietly contained. You never chose the choice. You never chose the choice. You never chose the choice. They built the box before you walked in. The threshold bars, the third voice out, the filing fee, the signature cloud, the media blackout on the names they fear. The debate stage empty when the real ones appear. Design construction wrapped in freedom's flag. The menu says choice, but it's one paper bag. Two options dressed in different colors, both reporting to the same board of directors. The field was set before the season by hands that never appear on camera. You never chose the choice. You never chose the choice. You never chose the choice. They built the box before you walked in. Every name removed was a threat to something real. Every name remaining was already part of the deal. The voter feels sovereign with the pen in hand. Doesn't see the fence running the land. The fence is the system, the pen is the prop. The narrowing happened 3 layers up top. You never chose the choice. You never chose the choice. You never chose the choice. They built the box before you walked in. by someone else. Go. The constituent calls, the lie puts you on hold. The donor calls, the lie picks up ice cold. The bill arrived funded by the industry. The committee chair built by the same treasury. You elected the voice was leased. The term of service paid in advance, pre-greased. The vote on the floor arrives after the wire arriving for the public's desire. The representative represents the check arrives before the people could object. By the people, by the donor, for the people, for the funder. By the people, for the donor, for the people, by the funder. Name the bill after a civic ideal. Fund a bill with an industry deal. Pass the bill through the constituent's voice. The constituent never made a choice. The lobby writes the language in the draft. The legislator stamps it front and aft. Capping finance is the infrastructure of law. The democratic principle is the PR draw. The constituent gets the symbol, the story, the flag. The donor gets the clause buried in the last page. Two systems running in the same machine. The public one is visible, the funded one is clean. By the people, by the donor, for the people, for the funder. By the people, for the donor, for the people, by the funder. Pray and fall, bell, 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 bell. Enacted constituent unread. Yeah. Show me the donor, I'll show you the vote. Dollar amount written in invisible note. The correlation table doesn't lie or spin. Regression analysis, the funding wins. Pharmaceutical track, the drug bill passes. Energy sector wire, the pipeline advances. Hedge fund deposit, the tax code bends. This isn't conspiracy, this is dividends. Academic study, peer-reviewed and cold. Money in, policy out, the pattern holds. 1% swing in contribution made predicts the outcome like a pre-sold trade. Not a mystery wrapped in partisan flame. Both parties cash the same recurring claim. The vote's the theater, the lobby's the stage. The funding column writes the policy page. Follow the wire before the speech. The conclusion was bought within reach.